ADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's May Day in Dakar and Abidjan, 1 o'clock in Lagos. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide at wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. ICC delegation arrives in Guinea amid ongoing trial of 2009 stadium massacre. Civil society actor kidnapped by unknown assailants in Mali.
He
was kidnapped by armed men between 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. on a motorcycle while leaving the mosque to go home. These men intercepted him before he could reach his house.
Senegal begins excavation to uncover 1944 massacre of soldiers by French military. And Child Rights International slams Ghana's immigration service over lack of transparency in street children evacuation.
Even if you want to look at it from the refugee point of view and how they were rescued and where they were kept, technically you have declared them illegal immigrants or what they call the prohibited immigrant. And in our legislations, you cannot describe a child as a prohibited immigrant.
Details of these and other stories are coming up shortly.
Here is Augustine Coley with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast and a warm welcome to our listeners across the sub-region and beyond. This edition opens in Guinea, where a delegation from the International Criminal Court, ICC, is currently visiting Conakry amid ongoing trial of the September 28, 2009 stadium massacre. On Tuesday, the delegation held meetings with the Minister of Justice and Prime Minister Amadou Oreba. The ICC deputy prosecutor leading the delegation is scheduled to meet with victims of the stadium massacre along with their lawyers and defense attorneys this Wednesday. A press conference will be held later this afternoon to provide updates on the mission's progress in Guinea. Now, here in Senegal, the government has initiated archaeological excavations in Traoré, a suburb of Dakar, to investigate the number of riflemen who were massacred by the French army in December 1944. The goal is to uncover the exact death toll of this incident, as French Army archives indicate that approximately 30 individuals were killed. The new Senegalese authorities expressed a commitment to clarifying this historical event. Sankule Janko reports.
Senegalese archaeologists have already begun excavations at the Chahare military cemetery where the victims are believed to be buried, as well as the former military camp in Dakar. The goal of these excavations is to locate possible mass graves or remains of Senegalese riflemen. It seeks to confirm or deny whether the graves in the Charoy military cemetery are empty or whether riflemen are buried there. Ultimately, these operations should make it possible to determine the exact number of people killed during the events of Charoy in 1944. While the French Army archives speak of 35 deaths, specialists suggest a figure of 350. According to authorities, the results of the excavations will be written in a white booklet which will be presented to Senegalese President Bassirou Diomaye Faye. Last February, Senegalese Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko announced archaeological excavations to uncover the truth about the number of Senegalese riflemen killed by French colonial forces.
Sankule Janko fight that report. Let's take a closer look at the Central Sahel region, precisely Mali, where another adoption has taken place in the northeastern region of the country near the border with Niger. The victim is Sidi Bakar, president of the Civil Society of Menaka, who was kidnapped on Monday, May 19 this year. Bakar was seized in the middle of the city by unidentified assailants. Imo Edit has the details.
There is currently no information about the identity of those that kidnapped Sidi Bakar. The president of the Menaka Civil Society was kidnapped on Monday evening while returning from the mosque. Concern is growing among those close to him. Haloseni Ag Ali is one of Sidi Barkar's close associates.
He was kidnapped by armed men between 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. on a motorcycle while leaving the mosque to go home. These men intercepted him before he could reach his house. They forced him to get on the motorcycle and then took him to an unknown destination. Now, up to this point, there is still no news. The family, colleagues, friends and the entire population of Menaka are very sad because he is a prominent figure in the region of Manaka. Today, the population has not left their homes. People are just waiting to hear from him. As I speak to you, there are people who are in his family home.
Sidi Barkar, president of the Manaka Civil Society, is known for his advocacy on behalf of internally displaced persons. In recent years, he has consistently called for the care of these vulnerable populations who have fled armed attacks in Mali. At this stage, no group has claimed responsibility for the abduction or made ransom demands for his release. However, those close to the civil society actor do not rule out the possibility of jihadist involvement or the work of local bandits. According to local sources, the Malian army has been mobilized for the search.
Imo Edit with the details of Aliyu Cham's report from Bamako. Away from the Sahel, there is a controversial case in Togo involving 2 police officers who were arrested for murdering a woman in Japanga, located in the central region of the country. The information was confirmed late last week by the National Police Director General in an official statement. This act has prompted reactions from human rights movements and organizations. Christopher Aticho completes the story.
According to initial interviews, the 2 officers allegedly justified their actions by stating a pressing need for money, which they intended to use to finance their plan to desert. The investigation revealed that the officers entered the home of a shopkeeper who sold essential goods and violently attacked her with a pistol that belonged to her. The victim sustained a fatal blow to the neck and reportedly died instantly. A human rights organization in Togo, the Martin Luther King movement, has condemned the situation as unacceptable and is demanding justice. Pastor Edo Kumi is the president of the movement.
The Martin Luther King movement condemns this barbaric and cowardly act by men who are supposed to ensure our safety, the safety of the populations. We cannot accept that those who are supposed to ensure our safety could turn their weapons against us. The Martin Luther King movement demands that the truth be revealed, that the perpetrators of this assassination be held accountable for their actions. Its complacency therefore requires that the Togolese people know what happened, and that any disciplinary measures taken against these agents be made known to all.
The National Gendarmerie also condemned this act and assured the public that the officers will be held accountable for their actions. They extended condolences to the bereaved families. The 2 police officers who are currently in the custody of the Central Directorate of the Judicial Police will be presented to the public prosecutor to answer for their actions.
A report from our correspondent Sylvie Wudraogo in Lomé, voiced by Christopher Aticho.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Elsewhere, Ghana's President John Mahama has inaugurated the 8th National Development Planning Commission, tasking the body with creating a unified long-term national development plan that transcends political cycles. At the ceremony on Tuesday, the president noted that nearly 70 years after independence, Ghana's economy still heavily relies on a limited range of primary goods with little diversification and value addition. Here is an extract of President Mahama's statement.
Since the completion of the 40-year National Development Plan in 2017, under the leadership of Dr. Nee Mue Thompson, who now returns to chair the commission, other frameworks with similar long-term ambitions have emerged. Notable among these are the Ghana Beyond Aid Charter, the Ghana at 100 Long-Term Development Framework, and the Vision 2057 Perspective Framework. I urge the Commission to consolidate all these various efforts into a coherent, inclusive, and forward-looking national development plan. This must be done in close collaboration and consultation with Parliament and the people's representatives to ensure that the final plan reflects a broad national consensus and is subject to regular review in response to evolving domestic and global challenges.
Ghanaian President John Mahama still in Ghana. An advocacy group, Child Rights International, is raising alarm over what it calls a lack of transparency and poor communication surrounding the recent evacuation of children by the Ghana Immigration Service. This follows a recent swoop in Accra that led to the rounding up of over 2,000 foreign street beggars, including children. The non-governmental organization is calling the operation a national emergency and demands urgent reforms. WADR's Accra correspondent Nadedetete reports.
Child Rights International is questioning the handling of a recent swoop by the Ghana Immigration Service that led to the arrest of more than 2,200 beggars, including hundreds of children across Accra. The organization says the lack of clear information about the evacuation and care of the minors is worrying.
We expect a certain standard to be followed in dealing with this particular case. Even if we want to look at it from the refugee point of view and how they were rescued and where they were kept, technically you have declared them as illegal immigrants or what they call the prohibited immigrant. And in our legislations, you cannot describe a child as a prohibited immigrant.
The swoop, which took place on May 16, covered areas like Kanishi, Abosiokai, and the Kwame Nkrumah Circle. According to CRI, nearly 60% of those rounded up were children, many believed to be foreign nationals. Child Rights International says the children should not be treated as immigration offenders and is urging the government to adopt what it calls a child-centered, rights-based approach to tackle begging.
How they carried out the evacuation and the kind of care system that they are giving to them after the post-operation. We've not also seen any protocol being established by the state to determine how they want to handle this particular matter.
The NGO is calling for a national dialogue on child streetism and a range of interventions, including comprehensive registration of minors, better border surveillance, and reintegration plans in collaboration with countries of foreign origin.
Nadedetete with that report from Ghana. Crossing over to Cote d'Ivoire as reactions are trailing the renewal of partnerships between 5 government institutions and the French airline Corsair. The new agreement offers several benefits, including preferential travel rates between Abidjan and Paris, as well as improved access to medical care at the American hospital in Paris for heads of the designated institutions and their families. In public opinion, this decision is viewed as a privilege for the elites. Abdullahi Hassan completes the story.
Several state and non-state institutions in Cote d'Ivoire have expressed concern about this convention. These include the National Assembly, the Senate, the Economic, Social, Environmental and Cultural Council, the Assembly of Regions and Districts, as well as the Union of Cities and Municipalities of Cote d'Ivoire. The beneficiaries of this agreement, who are elected officials and their dependents, will be able to travel at reduced prices with Air Corsair and access certain medical services in France. However, the African People's Party of Cote d'Ivoire, PPACI, has criticized this new partnership. Jean-Gavet Chede is Deputy Secretary General and spokesperson for the PPACI.
The PPACI believes that its preferential treatment agreement with Corsair and the American Hospital of Paris are actually a secretly negotiated partnership by the concerned entities. The well-being of their elected officials and their families is prioritized at the expense of the people of Cote d'Ivoire who brought them to power.
The ruling rally of Houfetist for Democracy and Peace RHDP has a different perspective on the matter. Yakuba Doumbia, the executive director of the pro-government newspaper L'Envers, posted a message on his social media page denouncing what he calls manipulation. He emphasized that the signed agreement does not contain an exclusivity clause and noted that since 2018, a government decision has required officials to prioritize Air Cote d'Ivoire for domestic flights and missions in Africa, as the national airline does not operate in Europe. Concerning the American Hospital of Paris, Yakuba Doumbia stated that no section of the agreement explicitly mentions a formal agreement with this establishment.
A report from Marcel Arostomblé in Côte d'Ivoire, voiced by Abdoulaye Hassan. You are still listening to Newslink on West Africa, Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. ICC delegation arrives in Guinea amid ongoing trial of 2009 stadium massacre. Civil society actor kidnapped by unknown assailants in Mali. Senegal begins excavation to uncover 1944 massacre of soldiers by French military. Still ahead in the news, Liberian government enhances financial initiative to revive its economy. We also have press review, guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Many thanks for staying with us. We are streaming live on YouTube at WADR News and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Now to Liberia, where the government has announced to increase in its financial initiative aimed at revitalizing key sectors of the economy. This initiative represents a commitment to uplift the standards of living for civil servants who often experience challenging circumstances. WADR's Monrovia correspondent, Ibrahim Parker reports.
The head of the Civil Service Agency provided an update on the government's top-up initiative, emphasizing its importance in enhancing the livelihoods of citizens across critical sectors. According to Josiah Joka, the initiative, which spans the education, health, security and agriculture sectors, aims to uplift the standards of living for the nation's workforce.
And the reason why those sectors are covered is because of the critical role they have to play in the lives of our people. We need security. We need to have stability. If we want to realize the president's vision, we need a healthy nation.
Josiah Joka added that to date, the initiative has covered 9,515 employees out of a total of 15,675 across the targeted sectors, ensuring that no one earns below 150 per month. According to him, the government's investment in this initiative amounts to $262,300.15 monthly, totaling approximately $3.1 million annually, which underscores the administration's dedication to improving the lives of its citizens.
Covered under the top-up initiative. None of those people are no longer being paid below $150, meaning that some of them who made around $200, some of them see up to $300, $315, $330.
The Civil Service Agency emphasized its unwavering commitment to the top-up initiative, highlighting that these efforts are a testament to the government's dedication to improving the livelihoods of its citizens. For Newslink on WADR, I'm Abraham Parker reporting from Monrovia.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Let's now join Sankule Janko for the press review from the Gambia.
We begin with the Point newspaper today, and the lead story on the Point newspaper reads, 39 selected from over 10,000 applicants for Spain job. Recently, the Spanish government and the Gambia government signed a memorandum of understanding that will allow regular migration to give opportunity to Gambians to go to Spain and work in their labor market. But out of 10,000 Gambian youth who applied for this particular job following the agreement, only 39 were selected from the whole lot. That's the lead story on the Point newspaper today. This other one reads, backholes for law to protect women amid rising broken marriage. The Minister of Lands and Religious Affairs, Ahmad Nkeba, is of the view that marriages are becoming so common now in the Gambia, there need to be a law that would protect women should in case their marriages end. Let's move on to the Standard newspaper today. And the lead story on the Standard newspaper reads, Barrow urged to use OIC role to mediate in Sahel conflict, with a huge photo of President Barrow and Captain Ibrahim Traore. Barrow, who is currently the chairman of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC, he has been urged to mediate the conflict in the Sahel region. Activists demand immediate halt to mining. That's another story on the Standard newspaper. This other one reads, Banjul Accord Group push for single air transport market, reduced fares. Let's look at the final newspaper for today, and that is the Foreign newspaper, and it reads, ECOWAS to begin direct negotiations with Sahel nations, with the photo of Dr. Omar Toure. That's the lead story on the Foreign newspaper for today. And the final story reads, Police open murder inquiry after woman found dead in URR. And these are the major stories making headlines on Gambian dailies.
Sankle Janko there with the press review from the Gambia.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
We are taking you back to Ghana, where an advocacy group, Child Rights International, is raising alarm over what it calls a lack of transparency and poor communication surrounding the recent evacuation of children by the Ghana Immigration Service. Bright Apia is the executive director of this organization. He speaks in an interview with WADR.
Our position is simple. The position is that in carrying out some of these exercises by getting rid of children from the street, we need to consider the global context and the regional context, and even within our domestic laws, how we can carry out some of these exercises without necessarily violating the right of the individuals involved. What even makes it worse is that over 2,000 persons that were rescued from the street, over 1,000 plus, which is more than 59 to 60% of them were children. So clearly, within the international instrument where Ghana, we have committed ourselves to, like the UN Convention on the Right of the Child, and then our own Children's Act, and then the Refugee Act, prescribe the process that we have to go through to be able to deal with the matter. So one, you cannot declare any child as a prohibited immigrant. And even if you want to do that, you also have to do an assessment to know whether or not they can return back to their respective countries. The law also recommends that you follow some kind of bilateral engagement with the foreign country and see whether they have the capacity to receive these individuals.
But last week, the Ghana Immigration Service stated that it was in custody of these people and that they were going through the required process to identify their respective countries and also link them with their respective authorities as to how to transport them back or repatriate them back to their respective countries. Isn't that a step in the right direction?
It is the right thing to do. But in doing that, you don't only need the Ghana Immigration Service to carry out those assessments. Though they are under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, there is a branch of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that engages in the diplomatic arrangement. And that is what we expect that it to be featured in the whole discussion. Again, we have not received any social inquiry report of all these families for you to determine whether or not you can repatriate them within the period that you've mentioned, and whether you also have to do further investigation before you do that. Because mind you, the countries that they have identified, they are unstable countries like Niger, Burkina Faso. So in that circumstances, the state, Ghana, by its own laws, must go through a vigorous process to determine their repatriation time. And for the repatriation to be done within a matter of 3 days, we think that those requirements cannot be achieved within that 3 days. That is why we are questioning the process.
As a child rights organization, what would you want the Ghanaian government to do when it comes to the safety of these children who, quote unquote, are from countries that are unstable or facing insecurity?
I think the first thing that the state needs to do is to carry out a needs assessment on each child and first determine whether they are biological children of the parent who they call the prohibited immigrant, or whether or not they are trafficked children. And if they are biological children of this immigrant and they feel that their countries are stable for them to go, and if they are not stable, then the state should be thinking of granting them a refugee status or grant them asylum so that we can integrate such people within the country and provide them with the needed care. And if there are trafficked children, then we have to deal with those who have engaged these children in trafficking, because within our laws, such people have committed offense against the law. So we can prosecute them. Then we put the children under our social welfare system by sending them to the children's home, so that the Ghana government can raise them to be more responsible children. So these are the aspects that we expect.
Bright Apia is the Executive Director of Child Rights International. And here comes Sankule, the sportive Janko, with the latest in the sporting world. Hello, Sankule.
Hello, Augustine.
What is the latest today?
Yes, let's begin with cycling this afternoon, because cyclists from across Nigeria's 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory are set to begin their quest for gold medals on Tuesday, May 20th, 2024, at the ongoing 22nd Sports Festival, also known as the 2024 Gate Games in Abeokuta. Speaking at the racing meeting held on Monday at the Games, Secretariat to Technical Director of Cycling Federation of Nigeria, Bashir Mohammed, announced that 17 cyclists events will be contested over 9 days. Meanwhile, at least 6 athletes have been disqualified from participating in the 22nd National Sports Festival currently underway in Ogun State due to anti-doping violations. The disqualifications was confirmed in a statement issued by DK Kahinde Ajayi, Director of Press at National Sports Commission. The decision, he noted, reinforces the Commission's firm stance against doping in sports. The NSC emphasized that action aligned with international standards and complies fully with the World Anti-Doping Agency WADA code. And in football, West Bromwich Albion have confirmed that Nigerian defender Sami Ajayi will leave the club at the end of June following the conclusion of the 2024-2025 season. The club announced Ajayi's departure on Tuesday as part of their official retain and release list. Ajayi joined the Baggies from Rotherham United in the summer of 2019 and spent 6 years at the Hawthorns, where he made 177 appearances, including 147 starts, and scored 13 goals. And Manchester United will take on Tottenham Hotspur in the UEFA Europa League tonight at the San Mamés Stadium in Bilbao, Spain. That's it for sports.
Quickly, Sankule, before you leave, how would you term the quest for this wonderful trophy, given the fact that, if I'm correct, there's been like 4 to 5 seasons now that none of those finalists have maybe won a cup or trophy?
Not only that, Augustine, they are terrible this season in their league. Both of them are English Premier League teams, of course, Spurs and Manchester United. We are talking about the 16th and the 17th. In the English Premier League. So they are doing so poorly. So this is like, it's an opportunity for either of them to redeem themselves, because winning also means you will secure a ticket to the UEFA Champions League next season.
And also take the shame from their faces.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Sankule. With that, we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Faluso and Seconde for the technical support. Do interact with us via our social media platforms, X, Instagram at WADR English, and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is our flagship gender program 50-50 with Nadia Titi. At 1 p.m., the news in French, which is M for Chevu, will come your way with Demma Amaan. I am Augustine Kali. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio.